Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, the ultimate platform to learn English in a fun and interesting way. Today, we are going to learn about verbs. A verb is a word or a combination of words that indicates an action, state of being, or condition. Generally, we always say that verbs are action words. But apart from action words, there are some more types of verbs which we are going to learn today, like helping verbs and linking verbs. But before we proceed further, let me tell you that I have come up with a very interesting idea which will definitely help you to understand this topic in a jiffy. I believe that we all love music. And how enriching would it be if we try to relate music with a grammar topic? Imagine that there is a music concert. Now tell me, what all things would we see there? Of course, musicians, instruments, and speakers, right? Likewise, in English grammar, we have action verbs acting as musicians, helping verbs acting as instruments, and linking verbs acting as speakers. Now let me explain it in detail. So basically, verbs are the rock stars of sentences. Talking about the action verbs. Action verbs are the musicians, and as I just now told you, as the musicians do all the action in a band, likewise, action verbs do all the action in a sentence. For example, I like my school. He rode on his bicycle. They sang a beautiful song in chorus. So in all these three sentences, the words which are highlighted are all examples of action verbs, as these words are depicting an action. Moving on. Here are some more examples like play, create, think, act, sing, move, write, draw. All these verbs are action verbs as they depict one or the other action. Action verbs are further divided into transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. A transitive verb denotes an action which passes on from the doer or subject to an object. For example, the horse kicked the man. Horse is a subject. Kicked is an action and man is the object. As we can see that the action kicked is being received by an object and the object is man. Likewise, in the second sentence, the cat sleeps on the rug. The subject or the doer is the cat, verb sleeps, and this action is being received by an object and the object is rug. So it states that transitive verbs always require an object, whereas intransitive verbs do not require any object. An intransitive verb denotes an action which does not pass over to an object or which expresses a state or being. For example, the baby sleeps. Here the subject is baby and the action is sleeps. But this action is not being passed on from the doer to any object. Likewise, in the second sentence, the friends is the subject, laughed is the action, but it is not followed by any object as the subject is not passing the action to any object. That is why these two verbs here are acting as intransitive verbs because they do not require any object. Now let us see how to differentiate between an intransitive verb or a transitive verb. For example, the crowd applauded the players or people screamed at the pitchers. In the first sentence, the action applauded is being passed on from the subject crowd to the object, that is players. Likewise, in the second sentence, the action screamed is passed on from the subject people to an object pitcher. Now talking about the intransitive verbs. As you can see on the screen, the crowd cheered the batter. And in the second sentence, the same verb is used but intransitively. People cheered wildly. Now let us see that how the same verb can act as a transitive verb as well as an intransitive verb. In the first sentence, the crowd cheered the batter. Here the action is being passed on from a subject to an object, whereas in the second sentence, the action is not being passed on to any object. So what we can do if we want to identify whether the verb is transitive or intransitive, we need to ask a question starting from what or who. And if we get an answer, then the verb is transitive. But if we do not get any answer, then the verb is intransitive. Like the crowd applauded the players. Who was applauded by the crowd? And the answer is players. So we can simply say that here the verb applauded is being used transitively. Now talking about the helping verbs. As I told you that helping verbs are the instruments. We all know that instruments help the musicians to create the music, right? Similarly, helping verbs help the main verb in a sentence. For example, my dad is swimming in the pool. He might cook the meal today. They were running in the corridor. So in all these sentences, each sentence has two verbs. Like in the first sentence, is and swimming both are verbs. But the only difference is a helping verb, whereas swimming is the main verb. Likewise, might is a helping verb and cook is a main verb. Now let us learn how many helping verbs do we have in English language. But for that we need to sing to the tune of Jingle Bells. Helping verbs, there are 23. Am, is, are, was and were, being, been and be. Has, have, had, do, does, did, shall, will, should and would. There are 5 more helping verbs, may, might, must, can, could. Helping verbs, there are 23. Am, is, are, was and were, being, been and be. Have, has, had, do, does, did, shall, will, should and would. There are 5 more helping verbs, may, might, must, can, could. Now it is time to talk about the speakers. As we all know that speakers link the music to listeners, similarly linking verbs link the subject to a noun or an adjective. For example, my sister is a doctor. Here in this example, my sister is a subject, whereas doctor is a noun. So, the verb is acting as a linking verb is trying to establish a connection between the subject and a noun. Likewise, in the second sentence, the verb seems is acting as a linking verb, thereby linking the subject George to an adjective happy. Here are some more examples of linking verbs. If you found this video interesting and informative, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.